An elderly farmer waited in a bank for 3 hours, ignored and dismissed by everyone around him. The manager refused to see him, calling him just another country nobody. But when a man in a sharp suit walked through those doors, her smug smile vanished in an instant. What happened next would teach her a lesson she'd never forget, and remind us all why we should never judge a book by its cover. Before we continue, if stories like this restore your faith in humanity, please subscribe to Everyday Kindness Stories. We share tales that remind us good people still exist in this world. The fluorescent lights of First National Bank hummed overhead as Harold Mitchell shifted his weight from one aching foot to the other. At 73 years old, his knees weren't what they used to be. He'd been standing near the velvet rope for nearly 3 hours now, his weathered hands clutching a worn leather folder against his chest. His work boots, caked with dried mud from the morning's chores, left faint marks on the polished marble floor. He tried to wipe them clean before entering, but 40 years of farming doesn't wash off easily. His flannel shirt, though clean, was frayed at the collar. His jeans had been patched twice on the knees. Harold had driven 2 hours from his small farm in Millbrook to reach this bank. The local branch had closed 6 months ago, forcing folks like him to make the long journey into the city. He wasn't used to places like this, all glass and chrome, with people in expensive suits hurrying past like he was invisible. "Excuse me," Harold had said softly to the receptionist when he first arrived. "I have an appointment with Mrs. Davidson at 10 a.m. about a loan extension." The young woman had barely looked up from her computer screen. "Sign in and wait over there. Someone will call you." But no one had called. Not at 10:15, not at 11, not at noon. Harold watched as other customers came and went, ushered into offices with smiles and handshakes. A young couple in designer clothes, a businessman with a leather briefcase, even a teenager who looked like he'd just gotten his first credit card, but not Harold. Every time he approached the desk to inquire, the receptionist would glance at his muddy boots and faded clothes, then wave him back to his spot. "Mrs. Davidson is very busy today. Please wait." Inside that leather folder, Harold clutched so tightly was everything he owned. The deed to his 200-acre farm that had been in his family for 3 generations. Bank statements showing months of missed payments. Medical bills from his late wife's cancer treatment that had drained every penny of their savings. And a handwritten letter explaining his situation, carefully composed at his kitchen table the night before. Harold wasn't asking for charity. He had a plan. His corn harvest was just weeks away, the best yield he'd seen in 5 years. He'd already secured buyers. He just needed 60 more days before the bank foreclosed. 60 days to save the only home he'd ever known. The land where he'd raised his children, the soil his father and grandfather had worked with their own hands. At 12:30, the bank manager herself emerged from her office. Jennifer Davidson was 42, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. She glanced around the waiting area, her eyes sliding right past Harold as if he were part of the furniture. "Mrs. Davidson?" Harold stepped forward, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "I'm Harold Mitchell. We had an appointment at—" "I don't have time for walk-ins today." She cut him off without even looking at him directly. Her nose wrinkled slightly as she noticed his boots. "You'll need to reschedule." "But ma'am, I drove 2 hours to get here. I've been waiting since—" "That's not my problem." She turned to her receptionist. "Sarah, I'm going to lunch. Hold all my calls." Harold felt something crack inside his chest. Not anger, not even indignation. Just a deep, bone-tired sadness. He'd served in Vietnam. He'd worked every day of his life since he was 15. He'd never asked anyone for a handout. And now he was being treated like he wasn't worth 5 minutes of someone's time. "Please," he said quietly, and for the first time in 50 years, his voice wavered. "I'm about to lose my farm, everything my family built. I just need someone to look at these papers. Just look at them." Jennifer Davidson paused at the door, her hand on the brass handle. For a moment, Harold thought she might turn around, but then she shook her head. "Security can help you find the exit if you can't remember where it is." The receptionist smirked. two tellers whispered to each other behind their stations, casting pitying glances his way. Harold felt heat rise to his weathered face, not from shame, but from the injustice of it all. He returned to his spot by the rope, lowering himself slowly onto a bench. His wife Martha would have known what to do. She'd always been the strong one, the fighter. But Martha had been gone for 8 months now, and Harold was navigating this new world alone. He thought about giving up, going home, letting the bank take what they wanted. Maybe it was time. Maybe he was too old to keep fighting. But then he remembered his grandson, little Tommy, just 7 years old. The way the boy's eyes lit up when they walked the fields together. The questions he asked about seeds and seasons and the miracle of things growing. "Someday this will all be yours, buddy," Harold had promised him just last week. He couldn't break that promise. Not without trying everything first. Are you still watching? If this story is touching your heart, don't forget to like and share. Stories like this remind us why kindness matters more than ever. At 1:15, as Harold was considering whether to wait another hour or come back tomorrow, the bank's glass doors swung open. A man in his mid-50s entered, dressed in an expensive charcoal suit that fit him like it had been made by hand. His shoes gleamed. His silver hair was perfectly styled. He carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who'd never been told to wait for anything in his life. Jennifer Davidson, who had just returned from her lunch break, practically ran across the lobby. "Mr. Reynolds, what a wonderful surprise. We weren't expecting you until next week." "Change of plans," the man said, his voice deep and measured. "Thought I'd stop by to see how things are running. Mind if I observe for a bit?" "Of course not. Whatever you need, sir. Can I get you coffee? Water? We have that imported sparkling water you like." "I'm fine, Jennifer. Just pretend I'm not here. I want to see your operation as it normally runs." His eyes swept across the lobby, taking in every detail. Jennifer's smile tightened, but she nodded. "Of course. We're running very smoothly, as always." Harold watched this exchange with mild curiosity, then returned his attention to the folder in his lap. He'd been reviewing his numbers for the 100th time, trying to figure out if there was any other way to make this work. The man in the suit, Mr. Reynolds, positioned himself near the window where he could observe the entire floor. His gaze moved methodically from the tellers to the loan officers to the customers being served. Then his eyes landed on Harold, still sitting on that bench, still waiting. "Jennifer," Mr. Reynolds called out. "Who's that gentleman over there? How long has he been waiting?" Jennifer glanced over, her jaw tightening when she saw who he meant. "Oh, that's no one important. A farmer trying to get an extension on a loan. Walk in. No appointment. He looks like he's been here a while." "He has, but—" "And you haven't seen him?" There was steel beneath the politeness in his voice. Jennifer's confident smile faltered. "Sir, I have a very busy schedule. I can't drop everything for every person who walks in off the street, especially when they clearly don't have the means to—" "Jennifer." The single word stopped her mid-sentence. Did he have an appointment? The receptionist suddenly found her computer screen fascinating. Jennifer's face went pale. I believe so. Yes. At 10 a.m. And what time is it now?" 1:20. "So he's been waiting over 3 hours for a scheduled appointment, and you told him you don't have time?" Mr. Reynolds's voice hadn't risen, but something in it made everyone in the lobby go quiet. "Did I hear that correctly? Mr. Reynolds, if you'd just let me explain the situation—" "No." He held up one hand. "I don't think I want to hear it right now." He turned and walked directly toward Harold. Harold looked up as this imposing figure approached, instinctively starting to stand. No, please sit," Mr. Reynolds said gently, lowering himself onto the bench beside him. "I apologize for taking up your time, sir. I'm Robert Reynolds. And you are?" "Harold Mitchell," he said, confused but extending his hand. The handshake was firm, respectful. "Mr. Mitchell, I couldn't help but notice you've been waiting quite a long time. May I ask what brings you here today?" Something in the man's tone, genuine, interested, kind, made Harold's throat tight. "I'm trying to save my farm," he said simply. "I have all the paperwork here. I just needed someone to look at it." "May I?" Harold hesitated, then handed over his worn leather folder. Robert Reynolds opened it carefully, treating the contents with the same respect he might give million-dollar contracts. He read slowly, thoroughly. Harold watched his face, the slight furrow of the brow, the way his jaw set, the way his eyes softened when he reached the medical bills. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The entire bank seemed to be holding its breath. Finally, Robert looked up. "Mr. Mitchell, you served in Vietnam?" "Yes, sir. 1st Infantry Division. My father was 25th Infantry. He's gone now, but he always said the farmers and small-town boys were the backbone of that war." He closed the folder carefully. "You've been farming this land for how long?" 47 years, sir. My father before me and his father before him. And you're asking for a 60-day extension to make up missed payments?" "Yes, sir. My harvest is 3 weeks out. I've got buyers lined up. I can make this work. I just need a little time." Robert Reynolds stood, still holding Harold's folder. "Jennifer," he called out, and the manager practically materialized beside him. Why exactly was Mr. Mitchell's appointment ignored? There must have been a miscommunication. Don't. His voice was quiet but absolute. "I watched you dismiss him earlier. I heard what you said. This man is a veteran, a farmer, a customer of this bank, and you treated him like he was beneath your notice because of how he's dressed." Jennifer's face went from pale to red. "Mr. Reynolds, I apologize. I didn't realize—" "You didn't realize what? That he deserved basic human decency? That he had an appointment? Or that I might be watching?" He turned back to Harold. "Mr. Mitchell, did you know that my father used his VA loan to buy a small farm in Pennsylvania after the war?" Harold shook his head. "He did. 50 acres of rocky soil that everyone said wasn't worth farming. But he made it work. Raised 5 kids on that farm. Taught us the value of hard work, of keeping your word, of treating people with respect no matter how much money they had." His eyes were bright with memory. "He lost that farm during a drought in 1983. The bank foreclosed. It broke his heart. He died 6 months later. The lobby was silent except for the hum of the fluorescent lights. That's why I bought this bank, Mr. Mitchell. First National and 12 others across 3 states. Because I remember what it's like when financial institutions treat good people like they're disposable." He opened the folder again. "Your numbers look solid. Your plan is sound. You're not asking for a handout. You're asking for what you've earned." He turned to Jennifer. "You're going to approve Mr. Mitchell's extension. 90 days, not 60. And you're going to reduce his interest rate to help make up for the fact that he's been sitting here for 3 hours. Then you're going to personally apologize to him." "Yes, sir," Jennifer whispered, her earlier arrogance completely gone. "And Jennifer," Robert added, "clean out your office. I want your resignation letter on my desk by end of day." Her face went white. "Mr. Reynolds, please. This bank serves communities. It serves people like Mr. Mitchell who built this country with their bare hands. If you can't understand that, you have no business being in charge." He handed the folder to another manager who'd appeared. "David, please take care of Mr. Mitchell personally. Give him whatever he needs." "Right away, sir." Robert turned back to Harold and extended his hand again. "I'm sorry you had to experience this, Mr. Mitchell. It won't happen again. Not at my bank." Harold shook his hand, finding it hard to speak past the lump in his throat. "Thank you, sir. You didn't have to." "Yes, I did. My father would have expected it." He smiled, and suddenly he looked less like a powerful billionaire and more like a son honoring his father's memory. "Save that farm, Harold. Then keep it in your family for another 3 generations. That's what matters." 3 weeks later, Harold stood in his cornfield under a golden September sky, watching the combines roll through rows of perfect ears. His grandson Tommy sat on his shoulders squealing with delight. The harvest was everything Harold had hoped for and more. The extension had saved not just his farm, but his future, his family's future. He'd received a handwritten letter from Robert Reynolds last week. Just a few lines checking in, asking how things were going, and inviting Harold to call if he ever needed anything. At the bottom, a P.S., "My father would have liked you." Harold had that letter framed. It hung in his kitchen now, next to a photo of Martha. As the sun set over the fields, painting everything gold and amber, Harold thought about how close he'd come to giving up, how a few more hours in that bank might have broken him completely. But sometimes, just sometimes, when things seem darkest, the right person walks through the right door at exactly the right time. Not because you deserve it, not because you earned it, but because good people still exist in this world. You just have to hold on long enough for them to find you. Thank you for joining us on this heartfelt journey. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of the quiet power of compassion, don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to Everyday Kindness Stories. We tell the kinds of stories that heal, uplift, and remind us what it means to be truly human. We'll see you in the next one, where another soul waits to be seen. Never judge someone by their appearance, their age, or their circumstances. True character isn't measured by the suit someone wears or the shine on their shoes. It's measured by how they treat others, especially when no one important is watching. The elderly farmer in muddy boots deserve the same respect as the billionaire in the tailored suit. And sometimes the universe has a way of teaching that lesson to those who've forgotten it. Good people still exist in this world, and they see what others overlook.